Welcome to the Ella Opa Travel Podcast, hosted by Melissa Fundas, Fotios Stamos, and Ari Kalos. Learning all the finer details of traveling to Greece is a true art form, and we are here to share our knowledge with all of you. Let's begin our journey.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ella Opa Travel Podcast. I'm Melissa Fundas, and I'm here with my hosts, Ari and Foti. How are you guys today?
How are you doing?
Doing well. One day closer to summer in Greece.
Beautiful.
Did I tell you guys, and maybe I don't, this is not public knowledge yet, but we're moving to Athens this summer. Did I tell you guys that?
I think you
told us, but now you just told the whole world.
Well, the two listeners.
Breaking news here on the Ella Opa Travel Podcast, everyone.
So summer in Greece will be different for us for sure, but yeah.
So you doing the Ella Opa Travel Podcast and living in Greece is going to give a whole new expertise to everything we're going to be talking about and everything you're going to bring to the table.
Feels so real.
Yeah,
this is the real deal.
Yeah, the real deal. The purebred Midwest American woman living in Athens now. So,
well, can I tell the audience the truth? This podcast, only 3 episodes in, has gotten so big that we're funding her full move to Greece just so she could be even more knowledgeable for the podcast. All right, that's the breaking news again here.
I love this breaking news, and I'm gonna hold you to it now that the whole world knows this announcement. So. That's awesome. Anyways, sorry, I got sidetracked. But anyways, yeah, one day closer to summer in Greece. So, what's on your mind today, guys? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about?
Oh, there's a lot. I thought I'm going
to I mean,
give it to you.
As you mentioned, we're thinking as we're getting closer to summer in our plans. Every time we bring up a location that we want to go to, that's a little too touristy. I don't want to fall into the traps again. So I'm like, okay, but is it really touristy? Is it really a trap, or is it just because we don't do enough homework?
Good question. Is it?
Yeah.
I'm going to say...
I mean, I have to say that where some of these quote-unquote labeled tourist areas, when we actually do visit them, they're actually beautiful and fun, and there's so many cool things to do there, despite that there might be more energy there because there's more people there.
I don't want to go off topic, but can I get Melissa, your opinion on what constitutes a tourist trap? In my mind, the tourist trap is where a lot of, obviously, tourists go because it's like, you go to Greece, you go to the Parthenon. Like, that's what you do. Like,
right.
But so then everything around it, the vendors, the businesses, all that stuff start hiking up prices. That's kind of like what a tourist trap is to me. Is that like an accurate definition of tourist trap from a professional's?
I'm glad that you asked that question, because I think it's hard to tell, until you're in the middle of it, because like you said, there's gonna be a lot of people there. And it's like, okay, are there just a lot of people here because it's really cool? Or are there a lot of people here because it's like the sheeple mentality that it's like everybody's doing it, so that means I have to do it. That is kind of a lived experience type of thing. And you don't really know until you're in it and you're like, shit, this is there's too many people and everybody's with their selfie sticks and the prices are out of control. And so defining that is lived experience. But I mean, so many people have lived the same experience of these tourist traps. It's like, okay, this is 100% a quote unquote tourist trap, which I would call a money grab for the sake of making money. And that's about it. The culture has been stripped for the most part. It's doing something performative almost, and not anything to do with actual Greece.
All right. That was just my little aside, because I always wonder if other people consider what I consider a tourist trap. But I mean, if I pay $5 for a bottle of water, I'm going to say tourist trap, right? The basic thing right there.
Oh,
right.
So,
I mean, Foti, you're in Santorini right now.
I'm in the Caldera.
So
wow.
this is a deep pond, but if you had to pick something in Santorini that is like the biggest tourist trap, I would tell somebody to avoid that like the plague. What comes to mind first?
Well, what comes to mind first, which is a double-edged sword, is because it's happened to me before, is the sunset in Ia,
That's
where
what I
it's
was going to say too.
where there's way too many people in such a small space, and then people kind of get rude. But
Kind of.
so as much as I love and I've experienced the sunsets in Ia, I would say that's what comes to mind first. Second would be the Caldera and that, the more of that shopping area with all the jewelry stores and the cafes. That to me is another thought when it comes to Santorini, those two places. Outside of that, I haven't seen, I can say that there have been more memorable experiences.
I think that those are the two big ones for sure. When I bring it up to people, that sunset in Ia is right where I go to because you guys know how that became popular, right? Or do you
Uh,
not?
Not
no,
specifically.
not specifically. So,
Okay. Once I tell you this, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So
We're going
at
to learn something.
yes, you're going to learn something. So at some point, I don't know how long ago this was, but the caldera used to be like ship property. Nobody wanted it because you couldn't farm it. The profitable land to be given was in the center of the island. And so the daughters that had the property on the caldera were actually the ones that were unloved. So first of all, that takes care of the caldera for you. The unloved daughters are now rich.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyways, so obviously Ia on the caldera is at the northernmost point on the island. There is a whole west coast of Santorini, as you know, that can see the sunset. The only difference about Ia is that the taxi drivers realized that that was the most expensive place to drive somebody, to drive a tourist. And so when the tourist would ask, where's the best place to watch the sunset? The taxi driver would say, oh, I'll take you there. It's Ia. And they would make bank. That's what happened.
I love these types of
so,
stories.
so Greek.
That
So,
is awesome. I
I,
wish I thought of it.
then, once you finished off with that comment, in our minds, like, of course they did that.
Yes, of course. Like you're like, aha, this makes a complete sense. Yes. So that's
Right.
why it got started. That's why it gets perpetuated. And when people see people doing it, they think, I need to do that too. No,
Right.
you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Really. And I think, you guys have been when you can get out of that, it just feels better to get like out of that
Mm.
space because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. I mean, there are other places that you can see the sunset, obviously. One, if you are paying for a hotel room with a view, you are paying for that experience already. Do not insert yourself into Ia for the sake of inserting yourself into Ia. Like you have that experience. And plus, like there are people that pay like just a ton of money for their hotel rooms at night and are like, okay, we're going on a sailing trip and then we're doing biking and then we're doing a wine tasting and then we're like, but not even like paying for this, view that they wanted. I think that that's another trap of the island. But
Melissa, now that you mention that, how many of us actually, I think about this often. We get beautiful rooms and beautiful areas, and we spend, less than 20% of our time in the room while we're there.
no,
Right.
it's a waste. It's a waste. Like if you're paying for a nice hotel room, like plan a day, like where you are just like in it, enjoying it, There's no reason. Like you're paying for that experience. But sorry, I got sidetracked.
Yeah, but I wanted to just very quickly, everything you're saying is so like valid and so true. But we also have to think, and this is a travel podcast, so I'm not going to get into the psychology. But imagine you've been. We know what IA is all about. We just talked about like how it happened, blah blah blah. But imagine going to Santorini like 3-4 times in your life, and then you're talking to somebody on a social level, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you must have seen the sunset in Ia." No, I've been to Santorini 4 or 5 times, but I've never saw the sunset in Ia. So even though it's, it's a tourist trap, it's a, perpetuated thing from taxi driver, from this, from that. Like, in the psychology of it, you have to go just because you have to go. Like, you can't tell people you've been to Santorini and you didn't go to Ia. So there's a whole psychology to it, which that's a whole other series. But I just wanted to mention, like, that's the way, like, I kind of see it. It's like, I don't want to go to Ia, but I have to as a human, part of the society.
That is so messed up. And you know what? Travel is psychology. Travel is psychology. It really is. There's a range between familiarity and novelty, and people are on different tracks of that. And your familiarity and my familiarity and Foti, your familiarity, they're all different. And our novelty is all different. And so something that could really mean something to you could mean jack shit to me, or vice versa. But I mean, in going back to your point, Ari, with the psychology of it, like, I've heard people say, like, "Oh, just the best sunset I ever saw was in Ia." I was like, "No, it was not. No, it wasn't. It was not." I'm like, you convinced yourself of that. Society convinced you of that, but that was not the best sunset you've ever seen. Because if you knew better, you would go inland a little bit and go somewhere like Pyrgos, which is high up. You can get the entire lay of the land. You can see the caldera, all of the white buildings. You can see the sun fully sink without a shit ton of people. And then you come into the evening and then the island is all lit up and you're up high and it's beautiful. It's amazing. Like, it's an actual experience, not a cattle call.
Let's invest in that area and then pay the taxi drivers to bring everybody there, and we can make that next wave of money.
Is this a business podcast? I feel like you dished out like 3 new business ideas, Ari.
Sorry, I digress. But I mean, everything you're saying is so true. And, if you really think about it, if you remove yourself from I'm going to Santorini, I'm going to see the sunset in Ia, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. If you remove all that stuff, what you are saying is so true and so, it's real. Like, that's how people should be thinking.
Yeah, and it doesn't take much. Like, you just need somebody to tell you. And even if you know that, like, hey, I'm walking into this tourist trap, like, at least you know it and you can expect it, and you have expectations that match the experience, instead of, a winter picture from Santorini where there's, very minimal people and it is completely inaccurate. Like, there's a difference between knowing what you're getting into and not.
I'm going to assign you guys some homework. I want you guys to find anybody who's ever been to Santorini and has not gone to Ia for the sunset. Because I would love to.
You can talk to any of my travelers. I've
really
seen enough. Yeah.
They don't even like sneak away and try to like bypass your planned trip.
If they do, they don't tell me about it. They don't tell mom.
Interesting. We're gonna have some special guests in future episodes so we could talk to these people and get into their mind.
Probably. You know what? I have had some people that have said, actually, like, I told them not to go to Santorini at all because it didn't match what they wanted. And I said, this is going to be a shock to your system, by the way, because it doesn't exactly fit, just so you know. And they made the decision. They're like, we're going to do it, or that's fine. We want to see it. One of those, like, we have to go to Greece and see Santorini.
Right.
Kind of things. I said, that's fine.
Once
and we get done and they say, you know what? Like, you were right. I don't think, like, I'm glad that we saw it. I'm glad that we went, but I don't want to go back. And I said, yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Like, unless you're going in the off season, the summer, it's just too much. It's too much.
I would like to go back to Santorini, and the only reason, not because of like, just the beauty, the surroundings, the tourism, the whatever, none of that drives me to go back. But the first time I went with a group of guys, like, and Santorini is not the place for a group of guys to like go and hang out. So, we hopped on a ferry to like Ios and we did some other stuff. But I would love to go back to Santorini just to go with like my wife for that experience. But like, there's nothing that once I saw Santorini, there was nothing that I was like, I got to go back there. I got to get back into those crowds. I got to squeeze myself into these expensive places. Like, none of that really mattered to me.
There's part of me that does want to go back as well and try to see it with a new lens. But like, just to take the step to be like, to make a choice to say yes to going back to Santorini means saying no to seeing somewhere else that like I'm really interested in and haven't experienced yet. And so that's the hard part. Right. That's the hard part, to know what I'm walking into. And I feel bad. Like, I'm not trying to like stomp on Santorini because, you know, I do that often. So I promise I'm not trying.
It's the anti-Santorini podcast.
I'm sorry, Santorini, because like I know and love people that work on the island, and so no.
But I'm sure I know a lot of people who have done these trips will agree with you. Like, there's a lot of other places to see. You don't always have to go to Santorini. You've been to Santorini, great, cool. You've been a couple times, fine. But there's other places to see.
Right. Sorry, we went deep into Santorini.
Sorry.
Again.
My fault.
But Foti, you mentioned it as well. Let's go back to Athens. And you mentioned the Parthenon, the Acropolis. And I've had people ask me before, like, do we have to see the Acropolis? And I was like, well, no, like, you don't have to do anything. But I think, you know, if you're there, it's really easy to access. There are going to be a ton of people there, but you don't have to. You know, there are other ways to see the Acropolis. Like, if you were going to hike up, you know, one of the hills, like, that's an awesome way to see it from a distance, and you see all the people and you're like, oh, good, I'm glad. Like, that's really great if you've already been up to the Acropolis once and, you know, did all the people and the selfie sticks and got yelled at by the guards. Like, does anybody not get yelled at by the guards? I don't think, like, you can just like look at the security rope and they're like, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, people get yelled at all the time. And it's a show on its own to watch the guards yell at people. And I was, this is like, if you could bring popcorn up there, you would get your whistle blown on you. But if you could bring popcorn up there, like, it's a show.
I've had that personal experience, especially like the long lines getting into the actual Parthenon, and there's signs that say "Do not touch, do not touch." And sometimes these slabs are very slippery, so you're trying to, you know, hold your balance, and you can't help it.
Or Foti with like an egg on his head from slipping, and the guard's like, "Get up! You're not supposed to be on your knees." They do get very aggressive.
Of course, and it definitely is a show, like you mentioned, and especially when you're in the heat in the nice hot sun.
Yeah, and everybody is trying to see this thing. I went up again this summer with the kids because they finally, like, my oldest finally decided that he wanted to see it. And so we went up again, and I was like, and I was reminded of like how hectic it is. And it's not a tourist trap. I mean, it's the Acropolis. It's the Parthenon, for God's sake. It's not a tourist trap, but there are certain parts of it that are. And one of those things, and you'll see them kind of all over the place in Athens, they're free tour guides, free tourist guides that will take you up to Acropolis. But like, the information that they're giving you is not on any sort of educated level. They're just basically like shooting the shit with you for an hour or two. And then, I mean, like,
What's the hook?
What's the hook? They want to get tipped at the end. They want to get tipped. Really, they ask to be tipped is what it is.
So I was approached by a couple, like, what do they call? They were like actors who look like Athenian soldiers, and we.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I tipped them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I get it with the free tours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, one, they're terrible at their job, but two, they're also illegal. You know, if you know that you want to actually know what you're looking at, you need a licensed guide. They're all over Athens. Get a licensed guide, or you could walk into a travel agency and say, I'm looking for a licensed guide, and they'll get you one. Like, I have a couple of my go-tos for my people. I'm not going to share their name because I'm hoarding them and I don't want anybody to take them from my people. But yes, you can walk into a travel agency and say that you want a licensed guide. Also, on the flip side, if you just like want to go up and see it just to see it and come back down, that's like totally okay. Like what? There's not a wrong answer. Like how deep do you want to go into it? You know, like do you actually want to know what you're looking at, or do you just want to see it? There's not a wrong answer, but always stay away from the free guides. Like they need to have a badge on that says that they're a licensed guide.
Got it. And Melissa, I don't know if this lends any truth, but there were some recommendations while we were there from others that it's best to go later in the day versus early in the day. Is there any
I,
truth to that?
I fully support that because 5 o'clock is a nice time to go because, or in the summer anyways, it closes at
Yeah.
6 in the winter. But I'm the expert here. I'm the leader.
But,
But in the summer it closes at 8. 5 o'clock is a nice time to go because it kind of simmers down. Because in the morning you have all of the people coming from the cruise ships, you have all of the people coming from the bus tours. They're all in there with their big groups, and they simmer down by the end of the day. And plus, it might just be like, yes, you hear a lot of people say go first thing in the morning, but then you're competing with those people. So later in the day is better, but you do need to get there like an hour before it closes. And I would go not in the main entrance, but in the side entrance on, is it Dionysius Street, where the museum's at behind. That's a better entrance to go to. You do need to get your tickets in advance. They're timed now, so you want to be really intentional with that. So then you don't have to wait in line as well. And if you hire a licensed guide, you get to go on the licensed guideline. Like you get to be a special friend.
there's a lot of that cutting the line people type of deal. So I think certain lines always have people that cut the line, right?
Yeah, and the skip the line, that's
Well,
another
that's
red
another
flag. That's a
conversation.
red flag. Yeah,
Yeah,
the skip the
red
line
flag for
people.
sure, but I'm sure we can talk about the etiquette in Greece, Greek etiquette.
Greek etiquette. Wait, I want a Greek etiquette class. I would love that.
Yeah,
We can
that's like
start
an
yelling at you right
oxymoron. Yeah.
Yeah.
now. We'll start cursing at you.
But speaking of red flags, Melissa,
Mhm.
we just mentioned collectively a couple, right? The free tours. What are some other red flags that we can speak of for our audience who's now probably thinking, along these terms, like what to not or what to look out for to not do?
Right. And I think, again, going back to what you said in Santorini, that's not specific to Santorini. Like when you're talking about these lines of shops that are selling all the same things as the other shops, that's not just in one place. Like that could be in Athens, that could be in Kirkira, that could
Oh
be
yeah,
in Milan, that could be anywhere. If you're seeing the same stuff on repeat, that you could get essentially anywhere, or like the wood, the cutting boards made of olive wood or whatever. Like you can get that pretty much all over Greece, and that Monastiraki Square, going back to Athens, Monastiraki Square, I tell my people, I was like, this place is hectic. It's very hectic. And I said, go walk through the flea market just once. Know that it's a dog and pony show. There are some like cute little custom shops in there and you'll be able to pick them out immediately. But otherwise, like, don't worry about spending a lot of time there. Don't make an intentional effort to go there. Like, you're going to see it no matter what. It's the very middle of downtown. Go see it, walk through it. Don't feel compelled to buy anything. The flea market for shopping, and then the street that goes by the train. Forget what that street's called. But that street notoriously has like the menu pushers, like, come look at our menu, come sit down, look at our air conditioning, come here, look at this,
So
look at it. Like
classic.
that's red flag. Like the food is mid, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's not good. And like, I know that they're just doing their jobs, but it's just like, get out of my face.
Right. It's also uncomfortable too when they're so direct about it. But if you can just ignore it, I guess that's the best thing to do. Limit your eye contact.
Well, I mean, do they look you in the eye and tell you how pretty you are when you walk
No,
by?
they say that to my wife, not to me.
They're
I
like,
mean,
what are
they're
you doing
kind of
with this
convincing.
guy?
They're charming. I mean,
Oh,
there's no doubt they're charming and they're charismatic and they're in that job for a reason. But it's just like, you can tell me I'm pretty all day, but I'm like not coming in your restaurant, man. I'm like, I know that I look like an American, but I know what you're up to. So,
and
and on that same note, menus without prices are a red flag.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this can be tricky. This can be tricky when you're talking about fresh fish, in the islands, because those do actually need to be weighed, but you do need to get some sort of like price per kilo before you're like, yeah, I want that, grouper or whatever that's like $50, like so expensive. And
Hmm.
you'll get burned. And I mean, you hear stories of that, especially in Mykonos.
And what about Melissa? There are places I've been to outside of Athens on the islands mainland where restaurants don't even have menus. They just read off what they have for the day.
That
Um,
too.
is
I
it,
mean,
would you suggest as a guest at these restaurants, menu with no prices, could you ask them, could you give me a menu with prices? And if they say no, is it rude to ask things cost before you order?
I don't think so because I mean I've had that experience, especially in the Hordio, where like we're going to our favorite restaurant and she's naming off the types of meat that they have for the day, or what they have or what they're out of. Like there's no menu there.
Right.
And so I mean, you really have to pay attention to what's going on around you. Like, are you around local Greeks, or, is everybody around you speaking English? You know, then
Good
that's a
point.
little tricky. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Hmm.
Very good point. Now that you mentioned it, I feel a sense of ease when the other guests are probably locals or Greeks. So there's probably a reason why they're here. And
Hmm.
if it's a different dynamic of tourists and other types of guests, then I guess we can be a little more weary.
But like I was also thinking about this the other day because about the idea of eating at a place with other locals. And I was thinking about like how I interact own, in my own city. And like I'll go to a restaurant, like sometimes like you just need food for the sake of food. And of course, like all Americans, they're whatever. Like, why would I trust like that guy or that guy or that guy? And like we're locals, like what does that even mean?
Right.
Like why, just because a person is Greek doesn't mean like, oh, it like elevates their taste in restaurants. Like you really have to be like have your own idea of what you like and what you want and when the vibe feels off, and if you see something that looks like it was frozen and reheated, like you have to be a judge of character.
Hmm.
True. Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Wow, there's so much we can dive into that this is all good stuff. I mean, definitely puts things in perspective of what to look out for and what not to possibly fall for.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how much time we have, but going back to the taxi story
Hmm.
again in Santorini, our little black, what do you call the scapegoat?
You want to say black sheep?
Yeah, I was like, not the black sheep, not the black sheep, our little scapegoat that we can pull every bad tourism
Yeah.
behavior back to. But going back to the story about the taxis, taxis, I mean, these are like we've all had a bad taxi experience, especially in Athens where there's so many. I suggest using Uber because it's still a taxi, but it's Uber. You can see exactly what you're paying before you get in. Anything within that downtown circle or even just outside of it, it should be like I went from the center of downtown to Ambalokapi, which is, like 4 metro stops out. I think it was like €7. And I've heard stories of, people getting driven like 5 blocks and the taxi driver has charged them, like €35. And I was like, oh man, oh, ouch, that hurts. So Uber taxi in Athens is available. I think Uber is also available in Santorini. It's not available everywhere, but if you can book your ride in advance or arrange a transfer in advance, I use welcome pickups a lot to do it in advance. Viator has pickups in advance from like the airport and stuff like that. If you can do it in advance, do it in advance because then you're not guessing.
Right. And can I add this to Melissa? The island experiences of taxis, like you talk about rideshare, like they take it to a different level. So you can take a taxi without knowing what's going on, and they'll pull over and pick up a bunch of people and squeeze you in, and hopefully that will be a better rate because there's like four of the butts in the car with you.
No, there's no rules. There are no rules once you get in a taxi that you did not order in advance.
Yeah.
It's the wild, wild west. And you know, if you are American, if you look American, like they're gonna
Oh
milk
yeah.
it for what it is.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I wanted to mention that because I think that's pretty funny that that happens.
Yeah, it's hard to see. It's hard to watch. That's all I'm gonna say. And you know, that kind of goes for any of these tourist traps. It's hard to hear. It's hard to watch. It's hard to see people get, you know, all riled up about these things that aren't even authentic Greece. It's just like, okay. Like I used to be meaner on my Instagram account. I think I really simmered. But I remember somebody yelled at me because I made this reel where it was like the point of view when somebody tells you that they went to Mykonos and Santorini on their honeymoon. And I think like the audio behind it was like, so, and like I rolled my eyes and somebody's like, that's so mean. Like you don't. And I was like, sorry for being real.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with some of that because sometimes, there are triggers, and I guess that was a trigger.
Yeah.
But
I'm nicer now.
Melissa, this was again another great episode. A lot of great stuff that we covered, things that are real, like to really get people to understand, all these unknowns that are circulating people's minds, and we're talking about from tourist traps. We're talking about, avoiding the craziness of the do's and don't do's, the red flags. But this is all very great to discuss that I think would connect with the people that are watching this episode.
I feel like we barely scratched the surface on this.
Well, I think, there should be continuations or part 2s and 3s and 4s in the future because a lot of this stuff, there's no way you're going to get it out in a normal podcast session, but it's great to get into it, great to get some info, great to learn a few things, and then continue in an ongoing series. Because, bashing Santorini should be at least 10 episodes.
You have picked the right woman for the job.
Perfect.
I feel like, I feel like a real asshole sometimes because I have travelers that apologize for me for going to Santorini. They're like, I'm sorry, but I really want to go. And I was like, am I that big of a jerk about this? It's okay.
No, but you know what it's about. You know how, there's so many factors involved, and all of that. So it makes sense that you're not just go to Santorini and you're good.
Right.
That's not a good travel suggestion. Going to Santorini is great, but it's there's a lot of other stuff. And if you don't want lots of crowds, if you don't want to spend a ton of money, there's other places you could go. So I joke around with you for that, but I think you're 100% valid.
Well,
Wow.
if Ari Carlos thinks I'm 100% valid,
You are
I'm done. I cannot go above that.
you are Ari approved.
That's it.
I've been
Ari
waiting for
rated.
this day.
Oh, good. Ari rated.
Ari rated.
R-rated. Instead of R-rated, it's R-rated.
Ari rated. I have a passing grade so far. So
Hey, I actually have learned a lot on these first 3 episodes. So I'm actually now more interested in just being your kind of sidekick co-host. I'm interested in actually learning because I've been to Greece how many times, and I didn't think I'd be learning much. I just thought it would be one of these, let's host this and do some cool stuff for other people. But I'm learning, man. every single time.
Again, you're changed man. Every
Right?
time, every little half
Every episode.
hour helps. We should send your wife a progress report, really.
Right. I'm gonna tell my wife to contact you about going to Santorini.
Yeah, we can do that. We can chit chat. We can chit chat. All
Well,
right, you guys. We'll see you next week.
that we
Absolutely.
will.
Looking forward
All
to it.
right. We got to teach Ari some new stuff. He's got to get another test in.
I love it. I'm eagerly anticipating.
All right. We'll see you
Thank you,
guys.
Melissa.
Thanks
Thanks
for hanging
everyone.
out.
We'll see you all next time. Bye bye.